Help others. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.
Shalom, this is Joseph Shulam, and we're going to continue teaching about the parables of Yeshua. And this is going to be a new series about dinner parables. There is several dinner parables in the New Testament, and there's also several dinner parables among the rabbis from the time of Yeshua, from the first century. Dinner parables were popular because dinner was a very popular event in the Greco-Roman culture. It was the time where people got entertained, they ate, they told stories and jokes, and they fellowshiped with one another. The normal living room in a home in Israel and in the Greco-Roman world was with a center table that usually was a three-sided table. It was called triclinium in Greek. Triclinium was a table that was like C-shaped table, square, with three sides so that the servants can come in the middle of the table and serve the guests that usually reclined around the low table on the three sides. And in the middle there was like the stage, and the servants and those who entertained usually came in the middle of the table to do their entertaining. But of course they had no television, no radio, so what they did was they talked. They discussed issues. They brought funny, humorous stories and sometimes discussed politics and religion, the topics that interested them in their daily life. So we find several parables of Yeshua dealing with dinner time. He's invited to dinner by Pharisees, and he's talking to them during dinner and telling them stories and parables. It's a part of the culture of the time. Now this is important because when you read the New Testament outside of its cultural setting, outside of its historical setting, it almost becomes like a mythology. It loses its grip on reality. And that's why a lot of Christians find it difficult to study and to talk about the parables of Jesus, about the words of Jesus in general, because the words of Jesus are connected very tightly to his world, to the Jewish world in the land of Israel in the first half of the first century AD. And I'm going to start with a general statement that Yeshua makes during dinner in Luke chapter 14. We're going to start from verse 10. This will be like the first teaching in this series. It will be an introduction to the whole issue. If you're invited for dinner, go sit down in the lowest place, so that when the master of the place will come to you, it will say to you, friend, go up to a higher place. Yeshua is teaching here to have a humble position, to be humble, not to desire to receive the honor from men, and to sit yourself and blow your own trumpet, as they say in English. But he wants you to be humble, so that in front of everybody that is sitting around the table, the owner of the house will come to you and say, come up, sit in a higher place. That will honor you and show your humility and show your real position in the community. Of course, Yeshua is doing that on the basis of Proverbs. In Proverbs, we find numerous statements about being humble, but also a statement in Proverbs chapter 25, verse 7. For it is better that it be said to you, come higher, than to be put down in the presence of the prince, who your eyes have seen. In other words, it's better for somebody to raise you up in the presence of the prince or the president, whoever important person is there, than somebody to put you down in the presence of the prince whom your eyes have seen. On the basis of this proverb in Proverbs 25 verse 7, Yeshua is giving this advice over here, that when you go to a dinner, to a party, don't put yourself higher. Put yourself in the lowest place. so that the owner will come and raise you up. I'm continuing because the owner of the party comes to you and says, go up to a higher place. He wants you to be honored in front of everybody else there and to sit and eat with the important people. Whereas if you put yourself up, you will be brought down. Whoever exalts himself, Yeshua says, shall be abased, and he that humbles himself shall be exalted. The same teaching that he gave in other places, the first shall be last and the last shall be first, is appearing here in the context of the dinner party. And then he starts in verse 12 giving instructions to those who want to make a dinner party. And he says, when you make a dinner party or a supper, don't call your friends or your brothers or your relatives or the rich neighbors, lest they also bid thee again, and recompense is made to you. In other words, if you call those that you know, your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, your rich neighbors, they will invite you back. They will reciprocate. And if they reciprocate, you are losing the opportunity to have a mitzvah. You are losing the opportunity to get reward that will have eternal benefit to it. Because once you do a good deed and then they pay you back for that good deed here on earth, you lost your credit after the resurrection. What you should do, Yeshua says, is make a feast. Call the poor, the maimed, the lame, and the blind to your feast. And when you do that, you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you back. They cannot recompense you. They cannot reciprocate. And therefore your reward, your benefit will be, after the resurrection, an eternal benefit. This teaching is very, very basic. It is so basic that the rabbis themselves have many, many stories with the same moral, with the same idea. And where do these stories come? They come from 2 Samuel chapter 5. The phrase, the blind and the lame, comes from there. And what happens is when David and Joab and his men go to Jerusalem and they want to conquer Jerusalem, the Jerusalemites standing on the wall say, the lame and the blind can keep you out of this city. Because Jerusalem was such a big fortress, the lame and the blind can keep you. From this, the rabbis learn that the value of the lame and the blind inside the city is so important. You cannot ignore the lame and the blind, because if you do, you ignore the strength of the society, of the city. And Yeshua learns over here that the strength of the society and the strength of the reward that we are waiting for in heaven after the resurrection is based on how we interact with the lame and the blind, the weak and the poor and the disabled. Not how we interact with the rich and the powerful and the family and the kinfolk that can repay us back, but how we can interact with the society around us that we normally ignore or ashamed of, or we want to stay away from them. But in this case, bringing the lame and the blind is bringing strength into your house, into your community, into your eternal rewards. Rewards are a part of our faith, but Yeshua warns us not to look for the reward that is now, but to invest in the reward that will have eternal value for us forever. And that is an introduction to the dinner party parables of Yeshua that we're going to continue in the next sessions. God bless you. Enjoy the study of the Word of God.
Help others, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.